All right, isn't it? So let me answer a few questions. You said, isn't it more effortless for them to cut the distance because of their height advantage? What happens when you aren't fast enough? So usually a shorter fighter is faster than a taller fighter. But if they do cut off the cage, you just have to be really good at your ability to mix up your moving laterally and your ability to move in and out. So if you're moving laterally, he cuts you off, you have to be able to smother them, turn them, and push off. You have to be able to move in, out, left, and right, and just constantly mixing it up. Sometimes you feint and move left and right. Sometimes you feint, you smother, you turn them, you back away. Sometimes you just mixing it up really between going forward and back, left and right. The more you do that, the less of a chance that they'll be able to actually cut you off. Watch Floyd Mayweather versus Diego Corrales. This is the best example of what I'm talking about. How to fight guys like Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria is a hard matchup, man. Somebody like him, man, you got to play safe. But the thing is, he's coming after you the entire time. If he lands one bomb, you're done. So, like, you got to be safe. You want to work off your jabs and your feints so that way he doesn't counter you. He has great counters. You got to be feinting. Don't let him just, if he times you, you're gone. So your feints have to be on point. Your footwork has to be on point. You have to be able to move forward, back, and laterally really well. I think you got to have 5-round cardio. You got to have really good 5-round stamina to be able to pick him off on the outside with long strikes because he's a shorter guy for his division. So typically, if you're at 155, you're probably going to be taller than Ilia Topuria. How many calf kicks does it take to shut down a leg to a pro guy? It just depends because are his calves already sore? If a person has sore legs going into a fight, it's not going to take very many leg kicks to put them down. But if he has a fresh leg going into a fight, then that means you have to start from 100% healthy leg and damage it enough to get him down, which can be done. But it just depends on how good you are at throwing leg kicks. It depends on how resilient his leg is to taking leg kicks. It's just dependent on different variable. When we return to MMA, I'm not sure, man. I'm just really focused on the content creation at the moment. What if they only use one hand and sometimes rotate their torso too much? I'm not sure what you're asking by that. What are your thoughts on low entries in boxing? I think low entries are good. I think going down to the body and entering down low is really good to set someone up. Every time you enter down low, what I like to do personally is this, like before I throw my low jab, I like to change my levels and then throw the low jab. I want to be able to sell the idea that I'm going low as much as possible, not just reach down. I want him to know how it looks for me to drop low and then go to the body. So that way I can drop low and come upstairs. The more I can sell whatever it is that I'm doing by being kind of like predictable looking, the better I can trick them and do something else. So sometimes you might want to throw a big overhand, like looping big overhand, a lot of body mechanics going into it. Do that 2 or 3 times so that way you can get his hands up. He starts with, okay, every time he goes like this, I already know he's going for that overhand. And then what you do is you go like this, and then you can shoot a double leg under them, or you can shoot to the body or do something else like that. So sometimes using very seeable techniques is a good thing because you can trick them and set them up with something else. How much does the ability to whip your arm in a punch matter in a punch or striking? I think it matters a lot. I think if you look at people like, look at Aaron Pico. I know he just lost this weekend, but that boy can box. If you look at a lot of his stoppages, he would go to the body and you would see him whip his arm back and his shoulder would lead first and then his fist would land after like a bow and like a ball and chain. You hit him, boom, and he would stop people with those body shots. Look at Canelo Alvarez, same thing. He leads with that shoulder and he lands with the fist afterwards. Look at Ilia Topuria, same thing. These guys have a great ability to generate power because they have that ball and chain whipping motion on their hooks. What to do if a taller fighter rushes you? If a taller fighter rushes you, you want to smother them. That's usually the best thing you're going to do when anybody rushes you. You have to smother them because what they think is when they get to you, they'll be able to hit you at the end of their rush. But if you close the distance on their rush, they're not predicting to hit you that soon. They're predicting that you're going to be where you are. So when you smother them, you're going to be way too short for them. So no one can punch like this. Do seminars, man. You got insane knowledge. I would do seminars, but I guess I got to reach out for those kinds of things more often. I never really thought about it, really, honestly. Top 3 workouts I can do in a hotel room for boxing. You could work, there's a lot of if you just go on my YouTube channel, man, you'll see a whole bunch of different drills that you could do in a small space. You could work feints, you could do jump rope in a small space like that. You could do some shadow boxing. There's a ton of things you could do. Could I start boxing and do matches locally for fun, or would coaches not network me if my motive for boxing is a pastime? I think if you want to box, coaches will find you a fight regardless, even if you don't even plan on becoming a pro one day or anything. Coaches will what if a guy is 6'10"? It depends how tall are you. If he's 6'10" and you're 5'10", I mean, the same plan that I told you is still the same plan. But if you're I mean, it's just regardless. If he's taller than you, he's the same plan. Taporia versus Arman. Thoughts? I think Taporia can beat Arman because I think Ilia Taporia is very crafty with his range management. I think he's going to be able to pressure Arman. Arman's going to shoot. It's going to be a long shot. And I think he's going to see those coming. And even if he does get a hold of Ilia, I think Ilia is strong enough and crafty enough to get out of his takedowns. Even if he were to take Ilia down, I think Ilia is crafty enough to get back up. Ilia, remember, you guys got to remember, Ilia started off as a grappler. Ilia was a dope grappler in these previous promotions, and he only just recently got into like really boxing and found out that he was a monster in boxing. So Ilia is crafty all around. It's going to be hard for anybody to beat that guy. I think Ilia would give Khamzat Chimaev more trouble at 170 than DDP gave Khamzat Chimaev at 185 pounds, just because I think he has more to offer. He has better grappling defense, better wrestling defense. He hits way harder. That's a crazy take, but how do I get better at throwing combinations? You got to throw more combinations. You just have to throw them more. The more you throw combos and the more you take your ability to throw single strikes out of the way. Like say, for example, when you spar, you only have combos, like only a 1-2-3 combo. You cannot throw any single strikes. That will help you get better at it. Same thing for 3 and 4 punch combos. What are some good tips for training yourself? How to develop urgency when needing to put your hands back up after striking. You don't go to a gym anywhere. I think if you're training yourself, the best thing you could do is, I mean, you could go on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. You'll see a lot of people teaching how to fight, how to throw basic jabs, crosses, defense, things like that. So there's no shortage of fighting information on the internet. And then once you know all your basics from watching the YouTube and the Instagrams and all that, start looking at fighters, start studying fighters, study what fighters do in their fights. And then whatever you like that they do, you want to try to mimic them. You want to look the way that they look when they do what they do. And then record yourself training, whether it be hitting the bag, whether it be sparring with a friend or shadow boxing. And what you want to do is you want to begin to look like the person that you're studying. When you look like that person, then you can move on and try another person, and another person, and another person, and just start picking up techniques that way. You're basically just stealing techniques from other people that you see. You really don't need to have a coach, because as long as you watch the footage and see the technique behind what you're doing is looking the same way that somebody else has done it in a real fight, it would work. Now, I'm not saying you don't need a coach in general. In general, it's always good to have a coach and have a second opinion, because we're biased to our own selves. So it is good to have a coach. But what I'm saying is you can definitely get very far without one. Until you want to actually compete in things like that, because obviously you can't corner yourself. How did you have DDP versus Chimaev? I had like the first 3 rounds as 10-8s, and it was sad, honestly. I wanted DDP to win. I just didn't expect DDP to be so much slower than Khamzat Chimaev. That size advantage that DDP has over Khamzat actually went against him. Because he was so much bigger, he was so much slower, and he lacked so many skills as far as his ability to get up off the ground, to create separation, to stop the takedowns. Khamzat was just too fast and too relentless. You know, he was just like a dog on a bone, just wouldn't let up, wouldn't give him any space. Made it a little bit boring because he wasn't trying to give himself any space to even attack DDP. But I mean, I didn't expect that. I'll tell you what, man. I didn't expect him to go out there and just pitch a complete shutout. Who's your favorite boxer of all time? My favorite boxer is Floyd Mayweather, hands down. Floyd is just such a good fighter, man. From his composure, his mental is just on a different level. I mean, you think about this. How many people could get rich and still work extremely hard? Do you know how difficult that is? When you're that rich, how do you have the motivation to get up and go run, to get up and go train, to get up and just put the same kind of work in that you were putting back when you were poor, when you were broke and had nothing? His level of commitment to the sport, even after being filthy rich, is just different. I mean, you look at Conor McGregor. Once he got really rich, his fighting went down the drain. It's not that many fighters that you can think of that got rich and stood on top for so long. So that's just one thing. I mean, besides that, I mean, his footwork, his defensive abilities, man, he's just all across the board, just to me, the best boxer. My coach got me my first fight, so I didn't really have to think about like how to get myself matched up with fights. So my coach got me my first fight. How should a Muay Thai fighter fight? Throw 2 hands and end with a kick. Yeah, it's always good to set up your kicks behind your punches. Throwing naked kicks gives you a much higher chance of getting your kicks defended, countered, intercepted, things like that. So it's always a good idea to set up your kicks behind your hands. And sometimes you can even use your kicks to set up your hands. It's good because it kind of has like this high and low effect going on where, let's say, for example, you throw a jab and then you leg kick. Well, your jab is high to the left and your leg kick is low to the right. So if you have a good jab, that sets up your low kick. If you have a good low kick, that sets up your jab. And your opponent has to pick, do I defend the jab or do I defend the low kick? They can't defend both at the same time. So those two really complement each other. And there's a lot of other kicks and punches that do the same thing. Can you make a YouTube channel covering fights and analyzing? I just don't understand, like, it's hard to do that because you can't replay a fight on your YouTube channel. In order for you to replay a fight, they would take you down. They would give you a copyright. That's why I never analyze fights because you can't. If I could, I would. All you could do at best is like show pictures, and that's kind of lame. After watching DDP, how do you think Islam versus JDM will go? I don't really think the DDP fight versus Hamza has much bearing on the JDM versus Islam fight, just because JDM is much more savvy when it comes to staying away from the takedowns, getting back up, things like that. But I will say this. I think Islam has less wrestling ability than Bilal, but I think Islam has more grappling ability than Bilal. If Islam takes JDM down, it could be trouble because his grappling is dirty. So that's something that we really have to avoid when JDM fights Islam. He has to avoid being pinned on the ground because if he gets pinned, he could be in trouble. But he has a lot of hands and a lot of footwork to bring to Islam before Islam will have a chance to do that. So how that's going to play out, I don't know, man. That's a 50-50 fight, to be honest. Best ways to gain fight IQ and figure out opponents. The best way to gain fight IQ is to study fights. I always talk about that, but studying fights is so important just because if you watch a fighter, say, for example, you get a famous fighter, like for me, I use Floyd. I would watch Floyd fight different people, and I would watch what he would do and why he would do it. So if he was working his jab, I would see how he did it. I would see when he did it, against who he did it. I would see why he was doing it the way he was doing it. If he shot to the body, why did he shoot to the body? Okay, because he was trying to set up the high hook. Why did he shoot to the body? Okay, he wanted to drop the hand so he could come up with the cross. I was just trying to pick apart why he did everything he was doing. And once I figured that out, from that point, okay, I just downloaded some IQ. And at this point, now you could even go on ChatGPT and just use AI to ask questions. Hey, how does a fighter do this? Or why does a fighter do that? And you can learn a lot just from doing that at this point. But that's how I did it coming up. I would watch a lot of footage on just different fighters. What type of kicks are best to use against taller fighters? The best kicks to use against taller fighters is going to be your calf kick, for sure, because your calf kick, a taller fighter has a bigger shin area, so you can land calf kicks much easier. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off for today. I'll see you guys next time.